الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الكلام كلام الله وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. Brothers and respected elders, I begin in the name of Allah Azza wa Jal. I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for bringing us together to remember Him, to give thanks to Him. And whilst we offer our Friday prayers, we know many brothers and sisters around the world, specifically in Palestine, they are unable to offer the Friday prayer due to the difficulty they're going through. So in today's khutbah, I will try my best to go through two things. Number one, how does the believer handle grief and sorrow and difficulties? Number two, why are we being tested? What is the purpose of ibtila? So you can take this reminder, the khutbah, in both in regards to what is happening in Palestine, and you can also map it in regards to whatever may happen to you in your life. As you know, the believer will always be tested. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions that He had created الذي خلق الموت والحياة, that He created death and life, ليبلوكم. The word is mentioned right there in the second verse of Surah Al-Mulk, ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. So the reality of the believer, or the haqiqatul dunya, the reality of this life that you live, though is short and limited, is a trial and test. This is not Jannah. The world that we reside in will never be paradise. But the greatest trick of the devil is to make you believe this is your home. This is not your home. The dunya is a place of test. It is full of ibtila. It is home for the kafir. It is home for the disobedient fasiq. It is home for the one who wants to worship his desire and submit to his whims and anything else, cultural, societal trends, whatever it may be, this is what he will follow. This is a Jannah for them. But for the believer, they know they have a home waiting for them, which is Jannah. And unfortunately, for those who are in the state of disobedience, Jahannam is waiting. But the life that we live, brothers and respected elders, we forget. And unfortunately, trials and tribulations will happen in our lives so that we are reminded and that we return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even in the ibtila, there is a rahmah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for those who are people of reflection, for ulul albab, for those who have a sense of deeper reflection. They know any difficulty that they go through will be a means of returning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So brothers and sisters, number one, we begin with, you must acknowledge and reflect over, where is the source of my trial coming from? You have a problem that you are going through in life. You have an obstacle, a pain, a hurt, something in your life, you feel pain. Where is that pain coming from? We know, number one, in order for you to go through that pain, you must first acknowledge that everything happens by the ever watchful eye of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is aware, Al-Alim, As-Sami', Al-Basir. So that gives the believer a sense of hope. My Lord is seeing what's happening. Allah, who is Arhamur Rahimin, He is aware. But for you as a believer, where is the source coming from? Where is the problem? How can I remedy that problem? You must be solution driven, not driven by Hamas, as in just excitement, I mean the Arabic word. Not driven by excitement or what should I do, or emotion, but must be driven by, what's the solution? How can I overcome this problem? Where is my source and the problems I'm going through? Many people in life, when they go through a problem, they reach out to the wrong person. They reach out to wrong people. In order for your difficulties and your trials to be amended or fixed, you must fix and you must know, where is my source and my tribulation coming from? You must acknowledge, where is it coming from? Where is this hurt coming from? It might be a particular individual, it might be a system, it might be a way. How can you then fix that? How can you bring help and support? Number two, you must allow yourself to experience this pain. I'm sure many of you have seen the videos and the images you've seen on TV. The ibtila is experienced from both the person going through it and the person who's watching it. Many of us, we might know a brother or sister who's having chemotherapy, has cancer. And you say, subhanallah, you feel a sense of, you feel sorry for them. You feel they're suffering. But it's also a trial for you. The concept of being tested, we need to look at it from a holistic approach. That the test is both in my affluence and in my health, and also in my loss and my suffering. It's not just in pain, but also if you have good health, brothers and sisters, respected elders, you are being tested by Allah. لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. Allah is giving you this ibtila. Your health is a test, but we don't see it as a test. Your wealth is a test, but we don't see it as a test. Our children are a test, but you don't see it as a test. Your wife is a test, but you don't see it as a test. Your business is a test, but you don't see it as a test. Only when we lose, we see it as a test. Hence why the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he came to change the minds and the hearts of the people. He came to change not just their a'mal, not just their outward submission and surrendering to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also their thinking, their mindset. Hence he said, عَجَبًا لِأَمْرِ الْمُؤْمِنِ. Amazing is the affair of the believer. أَمْرُهُ كُلُّهُ خَيْرٌ. Brothers and respected elders, please, let's take some time to reflect over this. عَجَبًا لِأَمْرِ الْمُؤْمِنِ. The affair of the believer is amazing. أَمْرُهُ كُلُّهُ خَيْرٌ. All of his affair is khair, it's good. Have you heard of this phrase when something happens and one uncle or maybe your parent, they will say, لَعَلَّهُ خَيْرٌ. Perhaps there is khair in this. You know, you didn't get married to that sister, that business transaction, that deal didn't go through. Something happened. You tried your best though. And someone says, لَعَلَّهُ خَيْرٌ. Perhaps there is goodness in it. This is how we see life. Anything. My obtaining and my loss. لِلَّهِ مَا أَخَذَ وَلَهُ مَا أَعْطَى وَكُلُّ شَيْءٍ بِأَجْلٍ مُسَمَّى. Do you see the words and the comfort the Prophet ﷺ gives the companions? لِلَّهِ مَا أَخَذَ. To Allah belongs what He takes. وَلَهُ مَا أَعْطَى. And to Him belongs what He gives. So everything belongs to Allah. Yes, my wife belongs to Allah. My children belong to Allah. You see the Al Jazeera reporter. He's reporting about other family members being killed and murdered. Homes being killed. And then today, a few days ago, his wife, daughter and son murdered. All of them. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Now this pain and the suffering, when they go through it, and you look at that man's face. I have a wife, I have children. I'm not worried of them being bombed and killed. But yet he's lost this. How? And how do they keep strong? Our iman, brothers and respected elders, we are on different levels and different scales. The ibtila that I may be able to face, maybe others will not be able to face it. What they're going through, maybe we will never be able to face it. They keep strong iman, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replace their loss with much more khair. Allahumma ameen. May Allah grant them sabr. Allahumma ameen. May Allah make us a community who act and let us move all of the things that we are seeing and we are witnessing. If you are not using your eyes and your hearing as a ibrah, as a form of leading you to action, then your eyes are a waste. It's better that you are blind. If you are not using your hearing in order to be enabled and to be pushed to do khair, then it is better that you are deaf. Every faculty that we have, brothers and respected elders, you must use it in the form of reflection. I see the suffering of my brothers and sisters. What are you doing about it? Either it helps you to abstain from sinning and have a sense of shame. How can I make an effort and support the ummah? Number one, we acknowledge the source of our trials. Number two, we must allow ourselves to experience the pain. There is no harm and shame in crying. But you must cry to who? Allah Azza wa Jal. You must stand in front of Allah and you must cry your heart out to Allah. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, لِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. To Allah belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is on the earth. وَلَهُ مَلَكُوتُ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. And to Allah belongs the ownership of everything. Allah owns everything. Al-ardu ardu was-sama'u sama'u. The earth belongs to Allah, the heavens belong to Allah. Number three, we are grateful. Grateful? How can I be grateful when people are being killed and murdered? No. Don't let the devil come to you and to give you a sense of despair. You own nothing, but you must show gratitude for the things that Allah has blessed you with. And most importantly, brothers and respected elders, is your Islam. Today you woke up upon Islam. Today you were given another opportunity to live this life. Who gave it to you? Allah. You did not give it to yourself. Allah Azza wa Jal woke you up this morning and you began your day by saying, Alhamdulillahi alladhi ahyana ba'dama amatana wa ilayhi nushur. Oh Allah, all praise and thanks belongs to you, who has given or who gives life and death, and to Him is the return. To Him is the ultimate return. So these are important moments, brothers and respected elders, that if you don't act upon it and reflect upon it, then you're not really part of the struggle. We might end up becoming bystanders. And this is what I'm worried about. That if we are not moved by the calamities that happen within us or around us, we just become bystanders. We become numb to the pain. We just watch, and it will happen next year again. And in that period from one year to another year, I was in the ma'siyah of Allah, the disobedience of Allah Azza wa Jal. When will we change and become a community of absolute khair within our homes and within our communities, hence bringing khair to the rest of the ummah? Number four, you must make dua during this pain. Because when we go through despair and struggling, it pushes us to pain. When we go through pain, it pushes us to dua. Brothers and respected elders, we are in the state of weakness. We can all acknowledge that. We are da'if. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. There is no might and no strength except with Allah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you a weapon. Every single one of you have a weapon. You have a weapon, but you're not utilizing that weapon. And the weapon is only as strong as the believer using that weapon. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Ad-du'a silahul mu'min." Dua is the weapon of the believer. So in order for you to have a dua that is effective and powerful, you must be powerful in your iman. Hence, when the prophets of Allah, when they will make dua and the angels will hear that voice and they see that prophet of Allah in a place where it's unusual, they will say, "Sawtun ma'ruf min abdin ma'ruf." This is a familiar sound from a familiar servant of Allah in an unfamiliar place. Who are we talking about? Yunus alayhi salam. When he says, "La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin." This is what every single one of us should be saying these nights. Every prayer, this is what we should be saying. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. The essence of Tawheed, the power of Tawheed, when we go through ibtila, will be mentioned in the second part of the khutbah. أقول ما تسمعون استغفر لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. So why do we go through ibtila, brothers and respected elders? Number one, we established that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will test us to see which of us is best indeed. Our brothers and our sisters, even ourselves, you sitting here listening to the khutbah, no one knows what you're going through. You might be going through a difficulty and a suffering, but that is known between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it becomes a form of gaining closeness to Allah. Number one, what is the purpose of ibtila? تحقيق العبودية لله رب العالمين. Number one, it is to establish the reality of servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we go through trials and tribulations in order for us to establish ubudiyya, servitude, humility, returning back to, realizing you are nothing without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the reality of the dunya. Any difficulty that happens and comes your way, it should bring you back to the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number two, al-ibtila i'dad al-mu'mineen lit-tamkin fil ard. The trials and tribulations happen to a believer in order for the believer to be established on the earth. Why? In order to attain anything worth attaining, you must go through pain and struggle. Pleasure, and before happiness is attained, there is a road known as pain. In order for you to attain pleasure and enjoyment, you must reach that through a road known as pain. Look at the lives of the prophets of Allah Azza wa Jal. They were not established on the earth just like that. They had to go through being called names, being kicked out of their communities, being murdered, their companions being called a liar, a soothsayer, a magician, a crazy person, possessed by a jinn, being things thrown at them. They had to go through something in order to find establishment. Number three, why do trials and tribulations happen? Kafaratul dhunub, or kafaratul dhunub, for our sins to be expiated. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentions, ما يزال البلاء بالمؤمن والمؤمن في نفسه وولده وماله حتى يلقى الله وما عليه خطيئة. You know, we worry. And I remember when my teacher was saying this, that on the day of judgment, there will be people, when they stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will wish that they went through more trials and tribulations. But when we are in this dunya, we don't want the pain and suffering. You see what they're going through. I don't want that for myself, so we shouldn't want it for them. But on the reality on the day of judgment is that the one who goes through trials and tribulations in this dunya, they will meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with no sins on them. Allahu Akbar. What they are going through is an expiation, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them tamkeen. Ameen. Number four, حصول الأجر والرفعة الدرجات. Number four, a way of attaining the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and a higher place in the station with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, ما يصيب المؤمن من شوكة فما فوقها إلا رفعه الله بها درجة. That the Prophet ﷺ, he said, the believer does not go through any pain and suffering, even if it's the prick of a thorn, except, or something larger, except that it's a raising of them. They're going through all this murdering and suffering. It is genocide, what is happening. Let us educate our neighbors, our non-Muslim colleagues, our schools, the boys who are in secondary school and at university. Educate the people. Let them know what is happening is a genocide. But in the sight of Allah, Allah Azza wa Jal, He takes martyrs. Allah Azza wa Jalla is taking them as martyrs, shuhada. And we know on the Day of Judgment, in the place in Jannah, there are 4 special people that will enter Jannatul Firdaus. An-Nabiyyin, Ash-Shuhada, As-Salihin, and Siddiqeen. And from them, I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He takes from our brothers and sisters in Palestine, Ash-Shuhada, Ameen. Inshallah, I'll end it with, there are so much more to cover, but we're limited with time. But I'll end it by saying a few things. Brothers and respected elders, my younger brothers who are still studying and working, please, when you are growing and you are, pursuing a career, or you're pursuing some type of leadership or wealth, I want you to have the ummah in mind. And what is the ummah? It is us. Look around, the ummah. Whether you're from Morocco or Algeria or Japan or China or Russia, as long as you say La ilaha illallah, you are from the ummah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you must have always the ummah in mind. Our Jewish community, when they think of starting a business, they always have each other in mind. They bought this property. They think, oh, how can I, get a deal in order to have a Jewish neighbor living here and a Jewish neighbor living here. They think of each other as a community. When they buy a property, they think of someone doing their window. Oh, what Jewish person do I know who knows how to do the window and who can do the carpet? But what do we do as a Muslim community? If we do know a Muslim who does have a skill, brother, I'm your brother in Islam. Is there any discount I can have? The Muslim discount. This is what we think of. Look at our mindset and look at their mindset. We need to stop. We need to change as a community. We need to bring the wealth back to the Muslim community and build each other, support one another, and please build and establish your own institutions. Bring benefit to your community. One thing I will tell you, in order to bring benefit to the ummah, is help our youth. Help our youth. They are the next generation and they are becoming misguided. Help them. They are the next generation. Any youth activities that are happening in Kilburn Islamic Center or in your locality, help that. Give your time. Offer some volunteering time. Don't think of your time in madrasa up until 16 and that's it. Your association with Islam is to the day you die. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was in the service of his community until he said La ilaha illallah, until he passed away from this dunya. Bar rafiqul a'la, until his soul left his body. So brothers and sisters, respected elders, ask yourself, how can I be in the service of the deen? I want to hear from Kilburn Islamic Center that they have hundreds and thousands of people that live in this community that are saying, how can I give up my time? We have a drug problem. We have a prostitution problem. We have a problem with our youth becoming misguided. A gang problem. How can I help or be of some service? I know some Quran. How can I help the madrasa? Do something. Establish your legacy. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us a ummah that brings benefit to the rest of the community and allows us to leave a legacy. Allahumma ahdina fi man hadayt, wa afina fi man afayt, wa tawallana fi man tawallayt, wa barik lana fi ma a'tayt, wasrif anna sharra ma qadayt, fa innaka taqdi wa la yuqda alayk. Allahumma izz al-Islam wal Muslimin. Allahumma dhill ash-shirka wal mushrikeen. Allahumma dammir a'da'aka a'da' ad-din. Allahumma dammirhum badada wa la tatruk minhum ahada. Allahumma ighfir lana warhamna anta mawlana fansurna 'ala al-qawm al-kafirin. Allahumma salli 'ala sayyidina Muhammad wa 'ala alihi wa ashabihi أجمعين وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
استووا واعتدلوا وتراصوا. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر ليلة القدر خير من 1000 شهر تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.